So here is my first attempt at reflowing an Xbox. So when I say reflowing, I spent pretty much the whole day yesterday. I pulled it apart for the first time, and then I managed to get the right stuff to kind of clean it up. As you can see here, let me see if I can get a good angle. So I cleaned up the CPU and the GPU right here and here. It's pretty shiny now, so managed to clean them two up. First of all, I followed one method, which was baking it in the oven. I essentially covered up most of these components like capacitors and things like that so they don't pop. Now the first time around I only did it to the first method was 115 degrees Celsius, and solder doesn't melt at that point, but I thought, hey, I'd give it a try because you know, it's better to undercook it than overcook it. I can always try again, which failed. Then I went and cooked it at a different method, which ended up being at about 230 for about 5 minutes after a slight warm up. After covering all the capacitors and things like that, you can see if I can get it here. There's been some slight leakage on these here and just here, but they haven't popped. So far so good. I've seen Xboxes with much worse and they've worked, so I'm still satisfied that this works. So I'm just going to plug this in now and prove to you that it has a lovely red ring of death. So let me just hook all this up here. So we're hooking up the DVD-ROM to the motherboard. So that's hooked up. Now we're going to go ahead, plug in the AV cable and a unit at the front for turning on and off. And I'll just turn on the TV. I haven't been getting a display. This is actually a original Xbox 360. Now, I was a real smartass back in the day, and what I ended up doing was when Microsoft were replacing faulty Xboxes, I went onto eBay and I would buy Xboxes that had the red ring of death, and I would ask them to give me the serial number just to check if the Xbox wasn't blacklisted online. And what I would do is I'd call up the Microsoft hotline and say, hey, this is my serial number. I've got a red ring of death. Will you replace it for free? And whenever they said they would, I would go ahead and buy the Xbox, get it off eBay, send it into Microsoft, and get a brand new one. So this Xbox is actually a replacement unit Microsoft sent me to replace a red ring of death, which has a red ring of death, ironically. So obviously what they've done doesn't work. What they did to fix this particular model, I believe it's the xefour, which is the first one, doesn't come with the HDMI. It only comes with the component out, which they have software updated to enable 1080p. The only thing is, if you want audio, you have to use the optical jack. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll try. Now, obviously, I don't have the X clamps on, and it's been off for a very, very long time, off all night, so it shouldn't overheat on the first go. So let's just try. Oh, that's 2. Okay. Where are the fans? I forgot the fans. So let's see if we can turn this off. Plug in a second time with fans. Three, red ring of death. So you guys saw the marks on the capacitors there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video now. I just went out today and I bought this brand new heat gun. You can tell it's brand new. The cord's still got the original crinks in it. Haven't had an opportunity to use it yet. I'm literally just coming from the store today As you can see over here, I just opened it out of its packaging. So, and these are some of the towels last night I used in the Xbox 360 oven baking situation. So this was white when it went in. So I'm gonna go ahead, close up for now, and I'll get my heat gun working. Okay, so here we go. We're ready to heat up the board and hopefully reflow and reseat all the chips. So just before I get started, this is the product I purchased. It's so let me get a better angle here. It is a Rockwell 200 watt heating gun with 3 settings. I got that for $50 from my local hardware store. So let's set this up again. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the board over, and for the first minute we're going to just, on the low setting on the heat gun, we're going to just generally heat the whole board. So we're going to cover everything about a fist's length away, so maybe about 2 inches or so. We're going to do that for 60 seconds, so 1 minute on the low setting. Just basically warm the board, just do the entire thing so it doesn't get a big shock when you turn the heat up. It kind of gets everything soft and ready to go. Once we've done 1 minute on the low setting, it'll still be okay to touch, so it won't burn. So for anyone who's planning to do this, I just use the metal chassis, the chassis that comes with the Xbox, and I've just got marble table, so heat isn't going to be too much of an issue. Then once that's done, what we're looking at doing is we're going to heat up the CPU and the GPU, the RAM chips, and the South Bridge and the Hannah. So we don't want to directly heat any of these at all. So we want to just basically focus our heat: CPU, GPU, RAM chips, South Bridge and Hannah. So now that's done, we'll kick off the timer, flip it over. So this is my 3rd attempt at a reflow. The first 2 oven bakes on a low setting and then a quite high setting both failed. I did get different error codes after the failure, so it's hard to say if it's doing anything or if the board is just completely dead, but I guess only one way to find out, right? So okay, so just double check, board's still pretty cool. So now we're gonna smash the CPU and GPU. Okay. So that is the 4-minute mark. So there's as we can see, there's a little bit of smoke coming out just from here. Let me see if I can get this. I can see it just a small amount right on this 3rd one, right here. That's where it's coming from. Now this is to be expected. Now it is cooling off and it hasn't actually broken at the top, which is good. So I'm still happy with that. Once they start, I've seen Xboxes with all of these brown and they've still worked. So as long as the seal actually hasn't broken, I'm fine with that. So back to the beginning. So now here we are. So basically what you don't want to do is touch the board. You want to give it a good 30 to 60 minutes essentially. So yeah, this is pretty much the waiting game. So I'm going to set a countdown timer here. So I'm going to set that for 30 minutes. And basically let this thing cool down. Now, as I said, I have zero expectations on what's going to happen with this because it's already been through the oven twice. Once it is done though, I will record the next part. I'm going to clean up these capacitors. So just going to get a bit of alcohol on this one. Let me just adjust the camera here. Also on this one, I'm just going to get a bit of alcohol and just give it a slight clean. As you can see, like that's the top of the board. Apart from the one in the center on the screen at the moment, the rest of them are pretty good. I can't really, sorry about the shaking, it's just a new tripod. It seems pretty good, like the ones on the side. They seem quite good. And obviously the one that was just leaking a hint of smoke before, that one, and the mate next to it's just got a drop. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. Like, I'm satisfied with that. It could have been a lot worse considering how much heat we just blasted at this thing. So, and as you saw, like, you know, I was focusing generally on the GPU and CPU, but I also wanted to hit the RAM chips pretty hard because for some reason, I don't know, I've insulated this whole board, covered all these capacitors, exposed the RAM, and just leave the CPU and GPU and the RAM open and baked it twice, and still nothing. So for me, I'm suspecting it's these bad boys. However, only time will tell. So what do we have left? 28 minutes. So I'll see you guys in 28 minutes. Just another tip while I'm waiting for the Xbox to cool down is I did get some M5 washers. Now these are fiberglass. Let me try to get that in the camera there. They're not very thick. They're fiberglass. So you know, they're going to deal well with the heat. So what I've been doing is when I've been replacing the X clamps, I put these there. It just creates a little bit more pressure between the X clamp and the actual GPU or CPU. So last but not least, your best friend, isopropyl alcohol. Sorry about the noise in the background, it's just my cat screwing around playing. So generally what I would do is I just get the lid from here and just spray in there a small amount. Standard issue Q-tips. Q-tips, just get a fair amount on there. Don't be shy, it's not gonna hurt. So generally it just makes it come off like magic. So I'll just kind of roll it around, try to get most of it off. You don't have to be perfect, but you know, obviously the cleaner you can get it, the better. That's pretty damn clean, as you can see with the other side. As I'm twisting it, it's barely getting anything. So I'll go ahead and do the other heat sink while we're waiting. So new Q-tip. Once again. And I'll also create a video of me applying the heat paste, because when I took these clamps off from Microsoft and then I took these heat sinks off, they were caked. Like, I'm talking, there was, you can see the footprint of the chip here, and there was heat paste all the way up here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but let me try to get this. Yeah, there was heat paste all the way up here. It was caked on by Microsoft, and I don't know if that was a contributing factor to where I am now, but too much heat paste also prevents efficient heat flow into the heat sinks. So now that these two are clean, I'm going to go ahead and check on the Xbox motherboard. Just a quick tip, if you do want a very quiet and peaceful recording, don't leave any boxes unattended in the house if you have cats. Excuse me, Bane. Hey, you're messing up my show. And I think we have one more in here somewhere. Oh yeah. Hey buddy. So let's have a look here. I'll just zoom in a bit. Sorry about the bad light levels, but just having a general feel. Now before you even think about touching anything, just obviously, use common sense. Put your backside of your hand over the board and just feel for any kind of general heat. That's pretty much the safest way to do it. I don't know if I mentioned, but once you've finished actually heating the board, you do not touch, jolt, move, anything. The board must stay stationary until the entire process is finished and it's cooled down and it's basically, set in stone again. So now that I've felt around, it feels very cool. There's absolutely zero heat. Yeah, there's zero heat to the touch here. So I'm just noticing a little funny here. So actually what I might do, instead of mucking around here, I'm going to set the camera up on my table and I'll show you what I've just noticed, and we can go ahead and plug in and try for my first test. Okay, alright, so we're going to kick off. Now you're going to have to excuse my wobbly hand because I'm going to hand hold this camera while I clean up the capacitors here. So it's pretty straightforward. As you can see, here's the rear of the console where the power supply comes in. So we're just doing a general check over everything. So the only things I can really spot, let me get a Q-tip here, is some slight leak here, but as you can see, it's still intact, it's not broken, so that's fine. Same here, once again, and everywhere else is fine aside from this one point just here and its friend next to it, which is nothing. So I'm just going to clean these up again with the alcohol. Best friend. So once again, same technique, just kind of spray a small amount into the lid or anywhere, and I'm just going to try and zoom in here so you can get a better look at what I'm doing, and sorry if it is a bit blurry, but just now that doesn't look like it's coming off at all. It seems pretty stubborn. No, I don't want to piss it off, so if that doesn't want to come off, I'm not going to force it. So that's fine. I'm going to try the other one here. So, okay. Oh, yep. A bit more willing to part ways. So that's cool. Happy with that. The one next to it might just get a bit more, because you got to be careful. This stuff dries up pretty quick, so you don't need to cover it, but it does dry up. It is alcohol, so yeah. Look, I'm pretty happy with that. I am going to quickly once over the CPU and the GPU. So let's just quickly do this again. So I'm Okay, they are spotless, but for giggles, let's just give that a quick clean. As you can see, there's nothing coming off that. So once again, awesome. All right, so let's put all this to the side. Now we're gonna apply some heat paste. So I found a lot of people in these situations, they just cake it on and you know, plug and pray. I tend to be a little bit more, a little bit less generous, let me say that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a small amount of heat paste. You can always add more later. On both, I might chuck a little bit more. Same over here. So just a clean Q-tip, I find. And what you want to do is kind of mush it out, and you want to get to the sides. You want to get every bit of the chip. Keep it as neat as possible. I find Q-tips are really good for this. And you want a very light layer, so when you do apply pressure, you want a little bit to just kind of squash in. So, but it has to be very light. I'm happy with that. So once again, just mush it out to the corners. I might put a little bit more on this one. We'll see. It's a little bit thin. Like, I've covered it, but I don't know if you can tell the difference. That's a little bit more cakey than that one, even though it's very light. So I'm just going to apply a little bit to the Q-tip. As you can see, it was practically nothing, but just a bit more so it can mush out to the sides, for lack of a better term, mush. All right, so I'm happy with that. Now, once again, I'm still pretty sure this isn't gonna work, but I am going to try and try and try again until it blows up. So let me just zoom out here. All right, so let me check I've got all the washers. So once again, this first heatsink, just gonna put these M5 washers on. I'm using fiberglass washers. And so this heatsink will basically slot here and then roll over flat onto this. Okay. Now, going back to something I found before, I'm just going to look at it myself. So I'm not sure if this is a bridged connection or anything, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but excuse me, something a bit fishy just around here. Just around here. Let's see if this, how good this camera is. iPhone 6 Plus. Damn, that is pretty good. Go Apple. So, just having a bit of trouble getting the board close enough to the camera in the way of the stand. But I can't tell if that's bridged or not, or if anything's wrong with it, but I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to go ahead and investigate that. That could be the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Just bear with me. I'll come back and I'll let you know if anything's changed. Okay, once again, excuse the wobbly camera work, but just trying to get you as close as I can to this chip here that I've been working on, the Anna. So what I did was get a very, very fine screwdriver, very, very thin, very fine. And basically what I'd done is on these particular points here, there was a fair bit of dirt and flux. I don't know exactly what it was. Now, again, I could have completely botched this even worse, but at the end of the day, the Xbox didn't work, so, you know, I'm just winging it here. I've already baked it twice, as I've said before. So what I went ahead and done was I got this screwdriver, and as you can see, I just very, very carefully kind of scraped in between here. Just divided the lines a bit more. Now, because they're very, very, like, even this one here to the left of my screwdriver, so there's that very faint line here, like going across. Looks like it's like cut them all slightly. It just, for some reason, it looks like that's kind of just here. It looks like it's slightly disconnected or bent, and I don't know. It's just so hard to see. Like, I'm actually using my iPhone to get a better look. Let me see here. That's about as still as I'm going to get the camera. One moment. Just adjusting. So you can see that it's hard to tell. It looks like they have slightly been disconnected. And to give you an idea of how small these components are, I'm going to put my fingernail next to it. That's my index finger. So these points are so tiny. They are so hard to get to. So it's just one of those things where even if I did have all the tools to kind of get to that, I don't think I'd have the skills to be able to get that such a fine point. It's incredibly small. So as I'm zooming out, keep that into perspective. So the chip's about slightly bigger than my fingertip. So as I'm going out, it is incredibly small. So anyways, that's one thing I did notice after a very just general examine over the board. Excuse me. So now we'll hook it up and the moment of truth. Okay, so I've gone from getting a red ring of death and the thing would kick over and actually sound like it's booting up, to turning it on and getting the same 3 red ring of death, but the fans don't kick, nothing. So if anything, my situation has worsened. Now I am very, very, very likely to blame this for it. Now it's actually quite funny because the camera, as I said previously, gives me a much better look at it than my naked eye. It's extremely hard to get to. So as you can see, what I've done is I've gone with a very, very fine screwdriver and I've just tried to kind of divide them up a bit because there looked like there was some sort of crossover or something. There was something there that wasn't right, and I may have pushed it a little bit too hard, but nevertheless, we shall continue.
Okay, this is the last entry to the Epic Fail Xbox 360. In all honesty, as I said from the beginning, the board could have been completely unrepairable from day one. So look, I had a bit of fun with it, and to be honest, at the end of the day, the Xbox was blown. I've got another one. You know, I had a ton of fun pulling it apart and seeing what makes it tick. Really enjoyed it. I want to thank two people that I follow on YouTube, and I have followed for quite a long time. And I'm also going to call them out if they can reply to me with a video, even just some comments, anything that some feedback, something I did completely wrong, things to try. I've thought about replacing some of these capacitors, ones that actually had a bit of mess on the top with them from the original bake. Not too sure. Look, I'm going to hang on to this carcass for about another 2 or 3 weeks, see if anyone comes back with anything interesting or any ideas that might be able to help resurrect this box. But at the end of the day, if anyone wants a free carcass, hey, give me a shout. I'll ship it off to you, no problem. But I'm calling out Mr. Mario 2011 and Johnny Guns, two guys who I've watched for quite a long time now, and more or less these guys have inspired me to take my own attempt in dipping into this whole scene. It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm going to start producing my own videos now with a bit of a twist on my end, so it's a little bit different. Not going to emulate exactly what they're doing, but guys, giving you a shout out, so hopefully I'll hear back from you guys. But here's the final product. Even though the heat sinks aren't on, it's not going to make a difference. So kick off, the fans kick off, instant 3 red ring, just to show you 0, 0, 0, 3. So there you have it. Xbox Epic Fail, eat your heart out. Peace.